I'm Rachel Lawrence from Homework Solutions, as Danny said. I've been in the industry a long time in various capacities. I started out as a nanny, like so many of us. And then I went on to start my own little nanny agency in the South. Then I went to work for the INA as a director there. And then I went on to a bigger regional agency and then ended up at Homework Solutions. So that's just a little bit about me. Also, I'm a mom, and so I have been a nanny employer. But let's get down to brass tacks. How are we going to get you $10,000? I know I want $10,000 to come out of nowhere. So let's get started. All right. Always have to do the little legalese thing, right? This is not specific tax and legal information for anyone in this audience. This is general tax and legal information. I am not a CPA and I am not an attorney. If you have very specific things outside of what you feel you need to ask me, or I may direct you at some point to speak to legal counsel or a CPA about something very specific to your situation. But in general, this is our agenda for the day. I don't think it's worth going somewhere where people won't give you an agenda because it leaves you wondering what they're going to talk about. Here's what we're going to hit today. I hope that we sort of go through every point on this that you want. And if not, like Danny said, I love a good question at the end. All right, let's start with the baseline of knowledge here. We hear people say, oh, you should want to do fair and legal pay. Fair and legal pay is so important. What does that mean? Fair pay is a little easier. There's actually a definition of it. It's a wage that is reasonable for the type of work being done. I think all of us in this industry, especially if you're sitting in this particular crowd, that you've gone to conferences, you have software and all of these things. So I feel like you've probably already checked this box. You are helping the nannies in your area make sure that they are paid reasonably for the work that they do. You are propping them up as professionals and you're presenting them as such to your amazing clients. So I'm not really worried about that. I think you have that down. However, legal pay is a little bit different, especially in our industry. People in other industries really take this for granted, right? They show up to work, they check into the HR department. The HR department has them fill out some lovely paperwork that no one knows how to fill out. They hand it back. Maybe they had a question, maybe they just did a fake it till you make it scenario. And then they go through the process that's already set up, right? Because this company has this on lockdown. Why? Because there's laws about this stuff, right? And in our industry, so many people assume, I guess I'll say, that these laws don't really apply to us or they apply significantly different to our industry than when they go to work. So I think a lot of the missteps here are just not knowing or not understanding. I rarely come up against employers that are like, ugh, no, not worth it, not doing it. I intend to treat my nanny badly. That's usually not where that comes from. They just don't know. And a lot of times they don't even know what they don't know. So they don't even know to ask. So that's the baseline of sort of what we're talking about. So why is this important? Well, it's important to your nannies for sort of these reasons. One is that, and I'll say nannies, but I mean all household employees really. So I will use this term sometimes interchangeably, but it applies to everyone in this space. They need to be able to prove that they have a job. Yes, for car loans, home loans, all of those sort of things that we think about. But these days, when you go to get a cell phone, they make you fill out paperwork that feels to me a little intrusive about what my income is, and a million other places, right? So it's just really important that you be able to say, I do have a job, I work here, I make this much money, and it's verifiable. Um, in olden times, I will call them, your household employer could write you a little note that said, hi, I'm Susie Smith. I swear to God, this is my nanny and I pay her. It's just not that same level of casualness, I guess I'll call it anymore, now that everything is a digital form. They don't want, the bank doesn't care that Susie Smith wrote you a lovely letter. They want a W-2. They want a pay stub. They want tax ID numbers on things. They don't want to get involved in anything that looks like it's a little off the books. Um, you know, In that same realm, when you're not working on the books, you have these benefits that you're legally entitled to, and sometimes insurance that you can't take advantage of. So, a nanny who works off the books, can she go get unemployment? You betcha. If you're an employer and you think that you've prevented that, newsflash, she will go when she has to choose between feeding her children and throwing you under the bus. She will go to the unemployment office. She will put your name, address, all of your phone numbers, how much she made, and she will get unemployment. And you will get a very nasty letter. And then you'll have to go pay those taxes anyway. But it makes it so much easier for a nanny if she's just on the books. Then when she goes and fills all that information out, no one's in trouble. She doesn't have to make these hard decisions for things she was legally due. And also things like workers' comp come into play. Can't get workers' comp if you, which is the insurance that comes into play if a nanny gets hurt on the job, covers medical bills and lost wages. You can't get that unless you're paying legally because they require a tax ID number to secure your policy. Also on the same lines, Social Security and Medicare benefits. You're due those. You work hard if you're a nanny. Um, if you're putting into your retirement plan, good for you. Extra credit, but you're also due Social Security. And I don't know what that looks like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years when they retire. But I know that it's not going anywhere because I paid into Social Security. Bet your bottom dollar when I go vote, I expect to get the money back that I paid in. And so it will perpetuate in some form or another. Same with Medicare. When you need those things, they're there for you for a reason. You'll see that the slide looks so similar for employers as it does for employees because these people are intertwined and these programs are intertwined. And it matters in the same way to these people, even if they don't realize as an employer and employee that really they have the same things on the line here. We sort of touched on the employer part of an unemployment also. She's going to get it. It's just going to make your life terrible if you haven't paid on the books. Same with workers' comp. Oh, well, we didn't pay on the books. I know in my state it was required by law to have workers' comp. But we had an agreement. We had an understanding. And so I'm sure this will turn out well. It will not turn out well. My daughter broke her arm last January and had to have surgery on it. They called it emergency surgery. That feels like a little bit of drama to me. It wasn't quite an emergency, but she broke her arm. She had to have surgery. We had insurance. This was a $10,000 bill with insurance. If someone isn't insured, you can make that in the hundreds of thousands. Your employee doesn't have this money. Your employer might not have this money. And this insurance is important. There's a reason 39 states require workers' comp insurance. These things will happen. There are icy stairs. There are matchbox cars laying around the house. There are knives used to cut up food for toddlers into tiny little pieces. So these things are part of our job and our lives and our industry. And then the one that no one likes me to talk about, and so I will only touch on it, is this is tax fraud. This is illegal. You must claim your income if you're an employee. You must claim the wages paid out to an employee if you are an employer. If you are the employer, do you remember this month when you signed your tax return and sent it off either digitally or in the mail? You said under penalty of perjury that this is the truth. If you leave out 50, 60, $70,000 of household employee wages, no one's going to believe that that was an oversight. That's not 30 miles you drove that, oops, no, maybe I did some personal errands instead of going to work. This is a big deal, and at some point it's going to come up. But you're all in the agency space. So why does it matter to you? I'm going to sit aside the one that we all know that is close to my heart, and I will just say it out loud. We have a moral obligation to this. We place these nannies, they trust us. We help these families, they trust us. In my personal opinion, you have a moral obligation to do this. You don't have to handhold them every step of the way, but they need to know this exists. They need to have quality information. And so, what does that look like for you? And what do you get for it, right? For being morally just. Is there an upside for you other than feeling good when you lay down to go to sleep at night? Yes, there's a tremendous upside to you and a downside if you choose not to go this route. So, I like to bring in outside sources because obviously I'm biased. So, Harvard Business Review feels like a pretty respectable one. You can see that top statement there is talking about all businesses, but it so applies to our industry if you think about it in the light in which it was intended. Pay equity, which is what legal pay really is, isn't just your competitive edge in the market. It's the opportunity to engage your, and they would say employees, but your nannies, who are the employees of the household, and maintain your relationships with them. Same with the families, and to build your brand reputation and or improve it. Um, just some stats from Indeed here. 81% of workers are more productive and engaged if they perceive that they are fairly paid. The nannies that you place, let me ask that in a different way. Do you hope when they go to work every day for the clients that just paid you thousands of dollars that they are engaged in their position? They're taking care of children. I hope they are. I was when I was a nanny. I hope if you were a nanny, you were also. This is a tremendously important work that we do. This isn't, stapling papers together. The work we do changes people's lives and futures. And so I would say that's hands down a yes. 75% of employees are more likely to apply with a company that they know supports pay equity and they're transparent about it. So I don't know about you all, but what I hear in general is that it's a tight nanny market out there these days, ladies and gentlemen. You want the best ones, yes? I perceive that you do. You want the top nannies in your area. You want the nannies that go to continuing education. You want those nannies that their whole heart's in that job, right? We all know you can't fake this job. This isn't a job where you can pretend to like it and go for 3 years and it all works out well. This is a hard job. You have to be in it to win it and all in it every day. And those are the nannies you want. That doesn't just get you the best nannies, that gets you the best families, that gets you returning clients, that gets you word of mouth. All of the things that you're working so hard to build, right? With your company. So just some little things here in the white boxes that I perceive as being involved in this, right? Yes, we've already talked about you want those best nannies. I will tell you from belonging to as many nanny chat groups as I do on Facebook, if you pretend to do this and you are not really doing it, you will be found out. A nanny that says, gosh, I support legal pay, I'm equitable, I do everything right, I play by the rules all over this company's website, and you aren't doing that, they're talking about you, but not in a nice way on these chat groups. So what do you want them to say? You want them to say, gosh, this person works really hard. They really do all the right things. Oh my gosh, they had my back. They helped me do this. They helped me do that. I always felt like I was respected when I worked with this agency. And because of that, the families they placed me with respected me also. And I stayed in these jobs because of that. I stayed with these families for years. I'm still in touch with these families a decade later because we're friends now. Um, that's the magic of what we do right there. And it also hits your bottom line when it doesn't work out that way. Who loves doing a free replacement? I'm guessing no one's hands going up right now. Whatever your replacement policy is, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year, they have to buy into it with extra money. It doesn't matter what it is. It's really not a fun phone call. I was a placement counselor. That call 1 minute after you open on a Monday is a bad one. It's something didn't work out, whether actually something went wrong or there's just a perception that there's a mismatch for some reason. And you now are at this crossroads where you might lose this client. At best, you do a great replacement and they have lukewarm feelings. You've probably lost this nanny because you kind of have to take sides sometimes, or you're not getting the whole story, or she just feels unsupported. So think about that, what that really means for your bottom line. Not only a free replacement, but you've damaged relationships. And that's exponential, right? So now I know, if you didn't already know, how important all of this is. I'm guessing you already knew though. Um, so why don't people do it? Why isn't every nanny on the books? Why doesn't every agency with every placement, every nanny, every hire make sure that they're paid legally? It's hard. It's complex. There's a lot that goes into it. I'm guessing none of you, you know, sat down to this webinar having just filed your nails and eaten bonbons. You're busting your butt out there. You have so many things to do, especially if you're a one-person show, which I know I was. And then I went to work for a bigger agency where we were a two-person show and we were still busting our tails. You have a lot to do, and there's so much to tell both your clients and caregivers. It's not like you aren't telling them other important things, right? And helping manage the relationships and the interviews and all of the things. This is important too, but who has the time? When you have to stop spinning a plate, this feels like the easier one to stop spinning. Um, you feel like maybe you don't have all the information. This stuff changes all the time. I know that you sort of see this in the periphery if you're not super into it now. You say, wasn't that tax threshold just something different last year? What did I hear about paid family medical leave coming to our state? I don't even know what that means. I don't want to get involved in all of this. This is not why I started a nanny agency. This is not what I meant to do. This is not what I'm good at. I'm stellar at placing nannies. I get that. And then ultimately you think, what if I do get kind of educated on this stuff and I do sort of start the ball rolling and then they ask me something and I don't know the answer? Or they ask me something and I think I know the answer and I give it to them and I'm wrong. And I just don't want to play with fire. I just don't want to get into this. So I'm going to say something like, don't forget you have payroll and tax obligations. Call that the family and nanny's responsibility, not because I don't believe in this, not because I'm a bad person, but because I just don't really know how to do this well. And I'd rather not do it than do it poorly. Um, in my years in this industry, I will tell you when I go to conferences, man, I love the agency owners I meet. They are the go-getters, the perfectionists, the alphas, the everything. Like laziness is not a quality of an nanny agency owner. It isn't that. It's that you don't want to do something and not do it well. So what do you do then? um, I'm going to talk about our payroll company because that is who I work for. If you do not come to talk to Homework Solutions about this, for whatever reason you have, please, 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 please go talk to someone else in our industry. If I just rub you the wrong way and you cannot stand the sound of my voice, don't give up on legal pay. Please do not give up on legal pay. Um, go talk to one of the other companies. But I'm going to tell you what we do to try to make your job easier. We have resources. I like pretty pictures personally. So I think they get concepts across better. I was not a traditional learner. I have learning disability, have had it my whole life, obviously. And so I'm so aware that people learn in different ways. So we have videos, we have graphics, we have articles. Hey, if you're an auditory learner, our blogs just started being, you can listen to them now. There are different ways for people to learn this. And these people are busy. Nannies work really long shifts, more so than most people. Families, I get off work and I go be a mom. for a long time after I get off work. And if I'm really lucky, I get a solid 30 minutes to sit down and read my book or watch a TV show. And the last thing I want to do is to go read a 10-minute article that sounds like legalese and tax information. Even though I'm in the industry, I don't want to do this. So I know your average person super duper does not want to do this. So we want to make sure that you have this information where you can send a link, you can send a graphic, you can share one of the social media tiles I make, you can share one of the videos that I refuse to watch because I hate seeing myself that I have put up on social explaining something. We can create things for you. We do a blog every week. We have knowledge center articles that are more evergreen. We can do, a guest blog for you. This matters to us. It really is part of our company culture. It's not just what we, provide as a service. I think if you meet the people of Homework Solutions, it's who they are. Just like you're who you are and your business are so intimately connected. We want to make sure people understand no one likes reading 26 pages of the IRS's handbook on household employmentship. Let us break it down for you. We can do it in a 5 to 10 minute phone call with your clients. We are not pushy salespeople. I never bring up our products on a sales call. Um, to me, that feels like a misnomer. To me, it's an education call. And the education leads these people to realize that they have an obligation to do this and that they want to do it. And so they naturally seek services, whether that's from a payroll company like ours, from a knowledgeable accountant in the space, and we will give them red flags, right? If your accountant says XYZ, not the right accountant for this job. Um, we're not pushy salespeople, but more importantly, these one-on-one consults just give people the information that they need. Also, if you choose to warm hand off your client's desk, they're getting a 5-week series of emails. It's a 2-minute read article on something like overtime, pay stubs, workers' comp, what you need to onboard an employee, those sort of pieces of information. Again, if they don't respond to us and want a consult, we just stop reaching out to them because we don't want to bother your clients. We want to be helpful. And here's my really pitchy slide because I want to make sure you get something, right? We give referral bonuses to our clients. And here's really where the name of my presentation came from. I'm not exaggerating. We have lots of agencies that make $10,000 a year off of simply doing the right thing, out of making sure that everybody is educated. And I was an agency owner, and I know you're saying in your head, but Rachel, I am not a gigantic national placement agency. They aren't. Our $10,000 a year placement agencies that we pay these referral bonuses out to serve one city, and there are multiple nanny agencies in those cities. They are you. This matters. This $10,000 is what? It's you hiring a VA. It's you being able to take a breath because you work so hard. All of these things, I have one agency that uses it for their company Christmas party. They say, you better send them all the Homework Solutions because that's your company Christmas party money. And if you want a good party, that's it. There's so many ways to use that referral bonus. I actually even have one agency that gives their entire referral bonus to their clients as a credit for our services. They take nothing. They give the entire $350 to their client to start services. We build these partner landing pages out for you. Again, this information isn't useful unless it hits home with your clients and caregivers. We want your brand on that page if you would like one. We want to co-brand with you. You're doing great work. I know if you're referring legal pay services, I already know you're doing great work. We'll make it specific to your area so that it's things like if you're in the DC metro area, you have DC, Virginia, and Maryland tip sheets on there. Again, 2-minute read articles gives everyone the baseline of what they need to know. And we have a feedback loop. You'll get a detailed invoice that tells you who enrolls and where they are as if they just talked to for Enginehire or if they've gone ahead and enrolled. This is really great feedback. I will tell you that when I was a nanny agency owner, I was certain all of my people were being paid legally, certain. But I didn't have any way to check it. And once I realized that I could check it against a payroll company's registers, I realized that those clients weren't telling me the truth. That a lot of my clients weren't actually paying their nannies legally, which of course came up sometimes when the placement went south. A lot of you, I'm sure, require a work agreement for your replacement policy. Just you got to give us a signed copy of your work agreement if you want a replacement policy in effect. You can do the same thing with your payroll. You can say, I need some form of proof of legal pay in order for your replacement policy to be in effect, because it's such an important communication tool and it protects everyone. It protects the family, it protects the nanny, it protects you. And then my one plug for Enginehire. Enginehire makes all of this stuff really easy, right? A lot of my top referring agencies use Enginehire and they just build us into their workflow. So when I said that there would be one email you would send that would make you $10,000 a year, I meant it. You only have to write the email one time, and then you build it into your Enginehire workflow, and it goes out as part of your onboarding sequence to everyone. And if you do this really to everyone, there's also the legal benefit that you can say if a family ever sues you and says, you didn't tell me any of this, whatever bad thing happened, our nanny sued us, our nanny got hurt, we didn't pay overtime, we didn't have the workers' comp insurance, whatever it was, you can say, I'm sorry, I did. You can see that I hand off every one of my clients to a professional payroll and tax company that educates people for free about this, and you chose not to take them up on that offer. If you warm hand off to me and they get 5 emails from me after you warm handed off to me, like that's not plausible deniability, right? So it has some protections for you as well. So that all being said, my contact information at the bottom. You aren't bothering me. That's the other thing I always hear. People are like, oh, I didn't want to call you. I had this question. I waited 6 months to ask you at a conference. Don't do that. I work Monday through Friday, regular business hours. Please call me, email me, whatever you need, and ask that question. I do payroll calculations for agencies all day, every day. If you're like, a California overtime, man, that's rough. What would it be if this nanny worked these shifts, but then this happened and then that happened? Let's talk through it. Let's do payroll calculations. Even if you aren't one of our partners, try us on for a fit. Send us questions, see what you think. And then if you decide that we've earned your business, sign up with us. We don't require you to sign a contract to be with us for a year or whatever it is. If we're not earning your business, why would you come talk to us? Don't, is what I would say. If we aren't doing a good job for you, don't come talk to us. So anyway, all that being said, I will now take off my salesy socks, and I want to answer those questions for you because again, this is my heart. This is who I am, and I want to make sure that that question that you've had in your mind but you didn't ask gets answered.
Does anyone have any questions for Rachel?
It doesn't have to be on this. We can talk state laws, federal laws, legal pay. What happens if you don't pay legally? Danny, I'll tell you if you leave silence, I'll tell you about my pets.
Well, I'm just gonna be cheesy here and say, hey, Rachel,
Nikita?
because I love Rachel. Yeah. I am currently on the one of the board members of the INA, and Rachel was with me for, on the board when I finally became a part of it, and she was in our finance. She was doing our finances as well. So, I mean, I'm gonna vouch for Rachel regardless. And but now I'm looking at this onboarding flow situation. That's something I'm interested in as an agency owner. So I'll definitely be contacting you and talking more about that. But I don't think I have any. I think I want to have like more of the more interpersonal questions, I guess, because all of it is just a foreign concept to me, and I still need help learning everything.
Everybody does. Do you know what I do every January and every July? I read a whole bunch of tax laws. Jay reads a whole bunch of tax laws. Franny reads a whole bunch of tax laws. It's ever changing. There's always room, even when you're the expert, to go read things. And if you're not an expert, um, like start where you are. If you learn one thing this month about fair and legal pay, what overtime is in your area would be a great one to start with. You've done exponentially great things, right? Because that nanny knows, that family knows. I bet you she tells someone on a park bench or in a chat group. Taquita's great in the chat groups. She's in there and always in there being supportive.
Well, I guess I would have a question of, so I still, tax season always gives me anxiety. So do you guys do help anything with the taxes? Like, I don't know, is it called like bookkeeping or something?
Yeah, so as far as our clients and caregivers go, we get them all of the tax documents that they need already filled out. So for nannies, that's a W-2, including anywhere where you had like special benefits, right? A healthcare reimbursement, any of your retirement contributions, all those sort of things are in our purview. With our clients, they're getting the form they need to add to their tax filing, again, already filled out. So you don't have to I know it's my favorite thing to take information from one box and add it to TurboTax and hope I put it in the right place. Um, we don't make them do that. They get an already filled out, what it's called a Schedule H, and then they get another sheet that shows the tax payments they made with dates and amounts. So it's super easy. Rather, if you're handing it to your CPA, they know what to do with it. In fact, their CPA can be on the account. Or those sort of things. Yeah, we get a lot of tax questions this time of year. I don't understand where I enter this information. Did those tax payments already get made? Or do I need to make them? I talked to Nanny this morning who was admittedly doing hers a little bit late and said, can't figure out where these local income tax answer is on my W-2. So I pulled up her W-2 and told her which boxes they were in so she could put it into presumably her tax software, and get that filed. She happened to mention, and this sounds like a shameless plug, but it's just the truth. She happened to mention that another payroll company that she went with didn't do local taxes, so she'd end up owing every year. It just wasn't in what their company could do. We do all locals. So she was really thankful to that. And she said, I just assumed I'd owe again this year, but I saw these other little boxes that said local and didn't know what to do with them. So that's why she called. Yes, we do a lot of questions this time of year and really at the end of each quarter, the tax filings.
Do you help with agencies filing taxes?
We do have a corporate division. It's not something that a lot of people realize that we do, because it's really something we do for our industries that we touch. So nanny agencies, yes, we can do nanny agency payroll. We can do all of those sort of things. Same with our CPA clients that refer to us, and small senior care agencies, things like that. We do corporate payroll for them as well. I'll never lie to you. If I think that you're better off going with some other provider because corporate payroll is a little, there's a little more wiggle room in there. If I think you're better off with the Gustos of the world or the ADPs of the world, I'll just tell you. I'm never going to sell you something you don't need.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Rachel, I wanted to ask you, what's the number one like hesitation when like families do call you of like why they might not go with like wanting to do anything of this sort? Like, I guess I'm asking, so we could have a preemptive,
Yeah.
talk about that before even sending them your way.
Yeah, so actually I'm putting together a webinar for our agency partners or anyone who wants to come about this topic. It's budgeting. The number one frustration that we hear is I didn't know about this until we'd already made an offer, and my budget's blown. I loved Mary Poppins. We gave her every dime we had. And so then they don't know how to pay the employer taxes, which by the way are about 10% if you're looking for a nice round number to give your clients. They'll pay about 10%. So if they hire a nanny for say $30 an hour, you're gonna have about another $3 an hour in payroll taxes. That's the really sort of high view on it. There's some details obviously, but that's a good budgeting number. Um, and then less so with payroll services. They say, okay, maybe I sort of knew about these taxes, but I didn't know I needed to hire someone to do this for me, but now it looks really complicated. Um, we'll give them as much information as they want about doing it themselves. No one's going to, because it's super complicated. The IRS says 50 plus hours a year you need to do this yourself if you're a household employer. I don't do it myself, and I work for this company. I am one of our clients, because I have a job and 3 children. I don't have that kind of time. Um, but it's the payroll services are about $1,000 a year for full service payroll, meaning we're doing pay stubs, we're moving electronic funds from employer to employee, we're doing tax filings, we're doing year-end tax documents, we're setting up their tax accounts and all of the sort of infrastructure work ahead of time, and we're doing benefits administration and all of that kind of stuff is about $1,000 a year. So I think those are really good numbers to give people so they don't get overwhelmed. 10% in taxes, about $1,000 a year for a payroll company. And then workers' comp, while maybe not required in your state, is probably always a good idea. $500 to $1,000, depending on if your nanny's part-time, full-time, what state you live in, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? I'm super nice, I promise. No. Well, you can email me if you're feeling not so super brave, or you want to pull the details about that question that you had 6 months ago and you haven't seen me at a conference yet. I'm happy to answer them always.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us, being so informative. Yeah, I super appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to come. And again, if you have questions, just let me know.
Yeah, it's be Rachel@homeworksolutions.com, right?
It is super simple. That's our claim to fame. Try to make things simple.